In the ruthless arena of power, a single betrayal can shatter both throne and heart. The cavernous rotunda of the state capitol trembled with applause as Antonia Ruiz strode to the lectern, her tailored red-sheath dress a beacon of confidence, her heels clicking against the polished marble like a judge's gavel. Seated before her, the press corps flashed cameras. Senators murmured their approval, and constituents leaned forward, hungry for the words this rising star would deliver. She inhaled, tasting the moment she had built since childhood. The first-gen daughter from East LA, who fought her way through Stanford Law, who had championed education reform, healthcare access, and women's rights across the state. Every step in her ascent had been calculated, every speech honed, every disappointment buried beneath the momentum of her talent. In the front row sat Daniel Ruiz, her husband of 12 years, smiling as if he were the foremost beneficiary of her success. His broad shoulders filled the chair behind her campaign plaque. At his side, Isabel, their 16-year-old daughter, clutched a program, her dark curls bobbing as she nodded in admiration. Mateo, 14, fidgeted in his seat, the younger generation's restless energy a living testament to the family legacy Antonia had woven. Her opening line filled the dome. "My fellow Californians, today we stand at the precipice of history." She paused for effect, scarcely aware of the smile that stretched across her face. Behind the scenes, though, an undercurrent of dread snaked through her mind. 2 hours ago, her communications director had sent a terse text. "We have a problem. Call me ASAP." And the image preview. Daniel's mugshot, flanked by stern-faced detectives. Yet here, under the Capitol's equestrian statue of Lincoln, she had to project calm. Her finger brushed against the ivory mic. She raised her voice. "A future defined by opportunity, justice, and unwavering integrity." Applause thundered. As she concluded, "Thank you, and may we move forward together." A whisper from her aide set her heart pounding. "Your husband, arrested." The final chord of applause reverberated across the chamber as Antonia's legs went numb. Confetti cannons should have signaled triumph. Instead, they felt like the flurry of shards from a broken mirror. She forced her hands to steady on the lectern, blinking twice before the audience. My husband has been taken into custody. I have no details yet, but I promise to keep you informed." Murmurs rippled across the crowd. A firestorm of shutter clicks scorched her eardrums. She stepped back, her campaign manager herding her off stage. Her protected route became a blur of corridors, uniformed officers, and cameramen blocking her path. Behind closed doors, in the hidden sanctum of her private suite, Antonia slid into a leather armchair, gulping water as her top aide, Marisol Vega, burst in, eyes wide. "Ma'am, the press is circling! CNN, Fox, Telemundo, they all have the story." Antonia's throat burned. What exactly has he been charged with? Marisol's jaw tightened. "Officially, accepting $2 million in bribes from Pacific Equities. Unofficially, it's everything you said you'd root out." The walls seemed to close in. Antonia's vision tunneled on the framed photograph of her and Daniel on their wedding day. His hand at the small of her back, her hand in his, both smiling against a San Francisco sunset. That promise of partnership, of shared ideals, now lay stained. "I want every campaign event canceled. Issue a statement distancing me immediately." Her voice came out cold, but inside, her heart felt molten, dripping sorrow and rage. Marisol nodded, already drafting the text. Antonia rose, pacing the ornate carpet, her silk dress swishing like a silent reprimand. "And get me the full brief. Transaction records, communications, everything on our server." Marisol hesitated. "There may be complications. He managed those accounts himself." Antonia's palm pressed to her forehead. "I need the truth, even if it kills me." Within the hour, the statement went live on every platform. "I am deeply shocked and heartbroken by the allegations against my husband, Daniel Ruiz. I have initiated divorce proceedings and relinquished all roles he held in my campaign. My commitment to serve California remains unwavering, and I will cooperate fully with all investigations. Observers heralded her swift action as a masterstroke, one sacrifice to save the greater good. Yet inside Antonia's chest, every syllable felt like ripping out her own organs. The divorce papers, filed electronically, awaited her signature. Her pen hovered above the screen, trembling. She thought of Isabel's face at that morning's assembly. Her pride transformed to confusion. Mateo's confusion. Could she save her children from this quagmire? Or would her sacrifice only deepen their scars? Midnight revelations. Darkness enveloped the mansion as she returned home to empty hallways. Security cameras cast green glints on marble floors. She found Daniel alone in the study, shackled to a desk, lawyers hovering. His once affable gaze was drained. "You filed already," he said flatly. "I did," she replied, voice brittle. "You don't have to do this." He held out a small envelope, her campaign finance logs, marked by red corrections, bracketed sums, internal notes she vaguely remembered approving. She glanced down and froze. $400,000 transferred to Eastside PAC. No official record, no receipts. Her chest constricted. In that moment, Daniel's first act of betrayal cut deeper. He held her own sins as leverage. He leaned forward, lips curling. "Drop your bid for governor. Walk away, or I leak everything. Your misallocations, your AIDS scandals, these children's private letters." The rug fell out from under her. She realized she had walked a razor's edge, believing only he could be the betrayer, never herself. Daniel's bitterness had metamorphosed from greed to blackmail, thriving on every secret she had buried. "So that's it," she whispered, voice hollow. "You'd destroy me to save yourself. I would have saved us, if you'd let me." She saw the man she loved, standing in the shadow of her ambition, consumed by resentment. She turned, leaving the room before the dam of her tears broke, a mother's lament. Downstairs, Antonia found Isabel reading on the living room couch. "Mom?" her daughter asked, looking up. "Yes, baby?" Antonia's smile fractured under the weight of her shame. Isabel handed her phone. The screen scrolled through social media posts. Hypocrite politician caught. Ruiz children lose home over father's corruption. "They're blaming me," Isabel said, voice trembling. "My friends. They say it's my mom's fault." Antonia's mother heart cracked. She knelt, gathering her daughter in trembling arms. "My darling, I am so sorry." She kissed Isabel's hair, tasting salt and defeat. "You did nothing wrong. I will fix this, for you and Mateo." Isabel closed her eyes. "Promise?" Antonia nodded, though she felt hollow inside. "I promise." But promises in politics, she knew, were as fleeting as palm prints on glass. At 2:47 a.m., alone in the governor's suite, Antonia scrawled in her journal, her thoughts raw and frantic. "They worshipped me at dawn. They revile me by dusk. Ambition built me. Betrayal will break me. But I refuse to crumble. I will weave new strength from these shards." Her pen hovered over the final line, which she underlined 3 times. No one betrays Antonia Ruiz and lives to tell the tale. In that blood ink promise lay the seed of vengeance and the dim promise of redemption. Long before the scandal, Antonia's ascent had been fueled by meticulous strategy and raw ambition. Born to immigrant parents in East LA, she rose through student government with a fervor that blinded few to her ruthless pragmatism. Daniel, an earnest community organizer, had managed her earliest campaigns, carefully balancing meet and greets with tight spreadsheets. Their synergy was the stuff of legend. Yet cracks formed when Antonia's first major donors threatened to withdraw support unless she bent ethics to secure jet fuel funds. She reclassified unspent postcards funds into a Latinx outreach initiative, bypassing campaign finance caps by routing surplus to a sister PAC. Daniel had questioned the legality. She had overruled him, promising it would never be discovered. When they married, she swore she'd leave behind the shadows. But as her star rose, so did the demands and the temptations. Late-night calls from lobbyists, veiled promises of policy favors in exchange for injections of cash. Daniel, enamored of power and increasingly dependent on the high life her career afforded, slipped into the role of trusted bagman. By the time Antonia announced her governor bid, Daniel had begun cultivating Pacific Equities executives, orchestrating hush money payments disguised as consultations. The first $500,000 vanished into numbered Swiss accounts. Antonia's trust in him blinded her to the phantom line items in her own budgets. When federal subpoenas landed on their doorstep, images of Daniel's signature on clandestine wire transfers, it shattered her world. She realized that she too had ignored red flags, fund allocation memos unsigned, campaign advisors quietly reassigned, program directors silenced. The complicity was mutual, the betrayal inevitable. Now, with Daniel under arrest, Antonia's campaign team scrambled to sever ties. Every misallocated dollar threatened to taint her entire record. She faced a grim choice: admit her own misdeeds and perish politically, or maintain innocence and watch her family burn. As the news cycle devoured Daniel's arrest, the Ruiz household descended into chaos. Paparazzi lined the driveway. Sensationalized headlines touted, "First Lady or accessory to crime." Late-night talk shows replayed Daniel's mugshot in endless loops. Inside their home, Isabel's phone buzzed with cruel memes. "Mom's a monster. Daddy's a crook. What's next? Isabel's secrets." Mateo, once a budding pianist, refused to play, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting betrayal at every turn. Antonia, torn between posterity and parenthood, canceled her campaign events to comfort her children, yet every gesture she made was spun by Daniel's allies. Leaked audio of her consoling advisors over coffee, suggesting they cover up Daniel's role if she wanted a shot at governor. Within hours, her own integrity was in tatters. When she confronted Daniel through plexiglass at the county detention center, he spat back, "You wanted power. I just gave you another way to get it." He threatened to release damning evidence of her concealed fund diversions, handwritten notes, third-party bank drafts, and Isabel's juvenile diary scribbled during a campaign fund drive, in which Antonia had laughed off concerns about the money's origin. Public trust vanished. Polls sank 20 points overnight. Her campaign staff mutinied. 2 resignations, 3 demotions, 1 anonymous op-ed in the Sacramento Tribune accusing her of ethical bankruptcy. Antonia felt the walls close in. Every right-wing attack dog bayed for her head. But Daniel's vengeance had only begun. He returned to court with a scorched earth tactic, leaking Isabel's private diary entries, hopes, doubts, teenage embarrassments, to the tabloids. Under the headline, "Angst-ridden teen daughter spills secrets," the world gawked at a teenager's most vulnerable moments. Lizards in nets crawled inside Antonia's resolve. Despite her fury, Antonia found little recourse. First Amendment shielded the press, campaign law experts warred over privacy statutes, and social media trolls roared unchecked. Every leak was another dagger. Her children became hostages in a war she never wished to fight. In the weeks that followed, the Ruiz family's veneer of respectability dissolved. Thanksgiving plans were scrapped as Antonia's parents feared public confrontation. Daniel's bail was set at $5 million, forcing him to rely on shady relatives. Isabel, furious and humiliated, ran away, spending nights in friends' basements, too ashamed to face school. Mateo retreated into video games, refusing to speak. Antonia's mother, Dolores, wept each night, clutching faded campaign buttons from Antonia's early races. Dolores had sacrificed everything to send Antonia to Harvard Law. Now she wondered if it was worth the price. Antonia fought through each day, press conferences with hostile reporters, vetoed fundraising calls, strategy sessions under fluorescent fluorescents. She hired a child psychologist for her teens, a crisis PR team, and doubled her security detail. Still, at home, the halls echoed with silence. At Daniel's court hearings, Antonia watched from the gallery, her world colliding with a stranger's. He stood in an orange jumpsuit, eyes hollow, as prosecutors detailed his take-home pay for consulting. The judge's gavel became a metronome of their collapse. Late one night, Antonia found Isabel in the bathroom, tears streaming. She held her daughter as she sobbed, "I hate him! I hate you! Why did you let this happen?" Antonia kissed her hair, heartbreaking. "I'm so sorry, Bibi. I promise. No matter what, I will protect you." But she knew promises were fragile in the storm of scandal. Defeated but not destroyed, Antonia reached out to Congressman Marco Diaz, her fiercest policy rival. Publicly, they were adversaries. Privately, both men had lost beloved family to corruption. Diaz's own sister, a city council member, had been caught taking dirty money from the same Pacific equities. Over clandestine dinners in dimly lit Filipino restaurants off J Street, they forged Operation Phoenix, a joint investigation into the lobbying firm's network. Diaz's team of staffers combed through PAC filings, Shell Corporation records, and hidden transfers. Antonia leveraged her legislative subpoena power to access banking records. Their alliance was uneasy, trust fragile, but driven by common vengeance. Within weeks, the Phoenix dossier detailed a web of bribery. Judges who ruled favorable zoning decisions, state senators who killed oversight bills, mayors who expedited construction permits. Each revealing slide in the PowerPoint drove home the corruption scale. They held a private press briefing for top investigative journalists. Leaks of the dossier to the Sacramento Bee ran under "Statewide Corruption Ring Exposed." Sealed indictments followed. 5 arrests in Palo Alto, 2 in San Francisco, 1 in Sacramento. Daniel's allies found themselves in handcuffs. The lobbying firm's CEO fled the country. Antonia took the stage at the press conference, her voice steady but eyes hardened. "This is proof that no one, not even those closest to us, are above the law. Today we restore faith in our institutions." The public responded with cautious praise. Polls ticked up 8 points. Justice, it seemed, might still be possible. But in the glow of legal triumph, Antonia's private wounds burned deepest. She returned home one night to find her bedroom strewn with photographs, her intimacy exposed, text exchanges with aides, selfies snapped after late-night fundraising dinners, private prayers turned public property. Daniel had hacked her phone, even as he faced trial, to retrieve messages that painted her as hypocritical and ambitious at any cost. Press outlets gleefully circulated each screenshot. "Ambitious bride, I need more money, scroll the donors." Hypocrite or hero? Ruiz's late-night pleas. Antonia felt the betrayal cut deeper than any scandal. Daniel knew her vulnerabilities, her first campaign trauma over counterfeit buttons, her whispers of insecurity when polls lagged. He weaponized her most private moments. No safe space remained. That night, she lay in bed, sleep elusive. Isabel and Mateo slept huddled together in the daughter's room. Antonia pressed her hand between her daughter's shoulder blades, tears falling. "Mommy failed you." She vowed to rebuild, not just her career, but her trust in herself. She penned a letter to her children's school, full transparency about the hacking, a heartfelt apology for dragging them into the spotlight, and a promise to share only truth going forward. The next morning, she addressed the press. "I have made mistakes. I have hidden truths. I promise honesty now. No more secrets." It was a raw gambit. Journalists snapped photos of her puffy eyes. But as the words left her mouth, Antonia felt a flicker of empowerment. Confession was her new armor. Encouraged by Operation Phoenix's initial success and her own public repentance, Antonia turned full force on the state Senate's Ethics Committee, convening a hearing that would shake the very foundation of her party. Senator Grace Kim oversaw the proceedings, but when evidence emerged of Kim's own concealed meetings with lobbyists, the facade of bipartisan virtue collapsed. At the hearing, chart after chart displayed improper fundraising dinners, $500,000 contributions in exchange for stalled oversight legislation. Antonia, once the accused, now sat at the witness table to detail each instance under oath. She called Thomas Vu, a tearful former aide who testified to orchestrated policy favors for campaign support. She called Lorraine Hayes, who confessed to accepting luxury trips from lobbyists. Even Senator Kim had her private communications dredged and her office door sealed. The hearing room became a carnival of confessions. Journalists live-tweeted every revelation. Breaking, Senator Hayes admits to wine-soaked retreat paid by lobbyists. Senate Leader Kim's secret emails leaked. By day's end, the entire party leadership lay in tatters. Antonia's party, the very platform she'd championed for transparency, was exposed as a charade. She had aimed to clear her name. Instead, she had toppled her own political family. In the aftermath, Antonia faced the voters in a statewide town hall. The backdrop, her children's school auditorium, seats packed with constituents. She took the stage, flanked by Marco Diaz, her unlikely ally. "This fight was never just about me," she began, voice echoing. "It is about renewing faith in government, about proving that power must always answer to the people." When the audience erupted in applause, she saw in their faces a reflection of her own battered hope. Isabel and Mateo sat in the front row, no longer ashamed, but proud. Antonia felt a surge of genuine connection. Later, at a modest diner near the Capitol, she shared milkshakes with her family. Daniel's name was never spoken. She and her children laughed at old family jokes. For the first time in months, Antonia felt whole. Despite her personal victories, Antonia's gubernatorial bid remained in peril. Polls showed her tied with a conservative opponent, Linda Chang, who had savored Antonia's scandal. Campaign strategists urged a more sterile image, but Antonia refused. She toured Chinatown listening to seniors, visited inner-city schools, and hosted live Q&As, her own version of radical authenticity. On election night, she addressed the state from the Capitol steps. "This campaign was built on mistakes and redemption. Tonight, we decide whether to trust in flawed humanity or silence the honest voices among us." As the results trickled in, 51.2% to 48.8%, the crowd erupted. Antonia's victory was narrow but decisive. Tears streamed down her face as she embraced Isabel and Mateo. Months into her governorship, Antonia settled into a modest corner office with a view of the Golden Gate span. She placed on her desk 2 jade tokens, gifts from Marco Diaz and Lorraine Hayes, symbols of her journey from betrayal to stewardship. Isabel thrived in her first year of college. Mateo's piano recitals sold out. In private moments, Antonia sat with her children over tea, reading Isabella's new diary entries, happier ones. She penned a letter to Daniel, unmailed, telling him she forgave him, but could never forget. "We both paid the price of power," she wrote. Then she burned the letter in her office fireplace, ashes drifting like final absolution. Standing on the governor's balcony, Antonia surveyed the city she pledged to serve. The scars of betrayal remained, etched into her bones. But in their wake, she'd forged a new legacy, one of transparency, resilience, and the hard-won knowledge that justice, tempered by mercy, could not only reclaim power, but restore the broken bonds of family and faith in government.